Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LFC Transfer Room live stream with myself, Anthony, and Dave. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this lovely Friday evening, as we have quite a quiet day yesterday in regards to news. However, today got very busy. Straight after the stream yesterday, it got very busy. We've obviously Andy Robertson's injury, and then we found out today there's a new sporting director possibly that may be coming in. And then also we have some interesting options for a left centre back or a left back role that we're going to discuss later on. And I'll get the lads' opinions on some of that. But I will pass it over to my panel mates and we'll see how everybody else is doing. Please do let me know how you're doing in the comments as well. And make sure to like and subscribe too, guys. Dave, how are you, my friend? Been a long time.
It's been a while, my man. Been a while. All is good. It's been an excessively long week. So I'm absolutely delighted that it's Friday evening. But otherwise, all is good. Okay, I'm moving house next week, so that's not perfect either. But, you know.
Even longer week next week.
Oh, mate, let's not talk about it, shall we? But otherwise, all is good.
That's a future Dave problem. Anthony, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. You know what? I didn't even find out about the Robertson news until, we were going to stream. So quite disappointing to hear. But I don't really give a crap about international football. I don't know about you guys. So yeah, not really looking forward to this weekend.
It's the fucking bane of my existence. When stuff like this happens and you have your star players, I think like it's just another game really that it's games that they shouldn't be putting on their bodies. I think it's what they've 70 games or 80 games this season with internationals included. Something crazy along the lines of that, which is absolutely nuts. But you have two sides of Twitter and two sides of social media that one sympathizes with them and then the other tells them kind of pull up their socks. They're getting paid a couple of $100,000 a week to kick a ball around with 21 other people. Like, so is what it is. I am on the side of sympathizing with them as it is their living. It'd be like if you were being asked to work 80 hours a week in a job every week, you'd eventually get fucking sick of it too. So I can see why they'd be like that. But on to some of the more disappointing news. As we recently found out with international football that Andy Robertson looks to have sustained, unfortunately, a shoulder injury. He was taken off immediately in the Scotland international game. Seems to have just been holding his arm and clutching his shoulder. It doesn't seem to look good. I'm not sure if either of you guys caught it, but he just seemed to have fallen awkwardly and for some particular reason was like pushed into the ground. It just looked suspect to me. But intentions aside, the next question is if he's out for a prolonged period of time, what do we do? Do we get Kostas Tsimikas in and play a flat back four? Do we go for a 3 centre-back role and move Trent up into the CDM role and then push MacAllister up further? And if that's 4 to 8 weeks, that's crushing. If it's 4 to 8 weeks for Robbo, it's crushing. Dave, I'll go to you first on this. Where do we go from here with this? Do we start Tsimikas and play a flat back four, or maybe do you see us go on the Man City route and playing centre-backs across that back four outside of Trent?
It's a big blow, first of all, but that's why we have Tsimikas at the end of the day. You know, that's why we just signed him to a new contract at the end of the day as well. He's a decent player. He's a good substitute for Robbo. Right, we know he's not the same level, especially going forward, or maybe even going backwards. I'm not sure. He's not at the same level. But he's a good player. He's loyal. He works hard. I have no problem with him stepping in. And it might give him a good chance to get a good, long, sustained period of play, which he hasn't really had much, has he, over the last couple of years? Yeah. So I have no problem with that. From a tactical point of view, you know, Klopp doesn't change his tactics much. They're usually always the same, you know. So I don't see him making any drastic changes. We've seen Tsimikas in that inverted 6 role as well as Trent on the other side. We've seen them both play it here and there. To be honest, I was actually quite impressed with Tsimikas in that role when he played it once or twice. So that's a possibility. I think it's more likely that it will be a back four with the 3 sitting, Tsimikas included, and Trent maybe moving around, or Trent going into the number 6 and Joe Gomez on the right, and Tsimikas joining Trent in that position. I don't see them making very big tactical changes from a formation point of view. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I like the thought of Kwanzaa with Van Dijk and Kanate, but then we don't really have. Would be too attacking if that happens with Tsimikas and Trent, who like to get forward in those positions, and then all the rest are out and out attackers. So I think we'll be a bit short defensively and get caught a bit with our pants down there. So it'll be interesting. You know, as I said, Koppa and Linders don't, or Linders, or however you pronounce it, don't stray away from what they know too often. So they've obviously had these two formations, or maybe three if you include the diamond, over the last 7-8 years since they've been there. So I don't see that changing too much.
Yeah, it's interesting because one of the things that I've seen on social media, and we have this here from Lou, that all the Robertson doubters are going to see the impact when he had on the team now that he's out for a couple of weeks. I completely agree with you. You're losing a world-class player. As much as we like to say anything about Andy Robertson, he's been asked to kind of play a new role this season and towards the end of last season. But it's Anthony, it is kind of a bit worrying that we're going to be without our star left back for a prolonged period of time, probably almost until Christmas nearly. Thankfully, though, it allows us for the next soft run of games. Realistically, between now and I think Christmas, the only heavy games that we have is Man City and Arsenal. Outside of that, it's quite manageable fixtures. So for the likes of a Kwanzaa coming in to fill in maybe on that left-hand side, or a Costa Tsimikas coming in, it's almost a silver lining in the grey cloud that it's the perfect time for them to come in and cement themselves, really, isn't it?
Definitely. I mean, I think I'm not sure if we've touched on it before, but the first few fixtures of the season were a bit shaky. Anyway, we had away games, Newcastle, Brighton. We played Tottenham. I'm sure there's another Chelsea as well. So
no, I wouldn't count
fairly easy, fairly easy fixtures, I want to say, going forward. Hopefully it doesn't come back to bite me. So Tsimikas, I think, like Dave already pointed towards, you know, we're not going to sign him for an extra few years if he's not going to play. And imagine if Kwanzaa comes in, or he does play Gomez at left back even, then what's Tsimikas probably going to think? You know, he's just made a big mistake. He's a Robertson backup for a reason, so he's got to step up. I think we've seen from him plenty of times he can step up, but we've also seen that he can't step up. I think the Brentford match, was it last season or a couple of seasons ago? He was just horrendous. And more recently in the Europa League, he's been a bit 50-50. So I'll keep my faith in him. I think because he's very stop and start. It's like he'll get a match, then he won't get a match for another 3 weeks, then he'll get another match. It's quite hard for him to find form. I think only naturally that it's probably hard to do that. So with 8 weeks, like Jay Muse was pointing out, in a row, he can stay fit for, then and he could keep playing. Then I've got no complaints. So I think he's a good player, Tsimikas.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Darwin Núñez problem. He needs minutes to get into form, but he can't get into form without minutes. It's kind of a catch-22. So hopefully this forced need for minutes is going to get him back up to form again, because there was a time where he was a fantastic left back for us, and I think it's just kind of fallen by the wayside purely because something similar to the Caoimhín Kelleher situation. Like, it's all well and good being one of the best in your position, but then when you have the best in your position ahead of you, it's quite hard to break through there, which is why during the summer I felt for Caoimhín Kelleher. Like, he wants to get through to the starting team, but like when you have Allison in front of you who's going to be there for another couple of years, it's very hard to do. But I'll pose the question to the chat as well. Like, do you give us your back four now for the next couple of matches going forward against Everton specifically, because that's going to be a big one, especially considering the type of player that Andy Robertson is. He's very much an irritant. He's kind of our Dennis Rodman, so to speak. He loves getting in the heads of other opposing players and causing problems. But put a couple of your thoughts into the chat, guys, and we'll get to them hopefully by the end of this. But something that I did want to bring up, and it's sort of a bit of a sidebar, is Halor's mention here is the 12:30 kickoffs again that we seem to be going in through 2 early matches, this time after the international break, and our next Man City one after the next international break. Is it just an agenda that's against us, or is it just that they love watching us suffer? Because we have guys coming back from South America that have absolutely no time to rest whatsoever. I think it's the fact that we've more than double or triple the next closest person, which is, Spurs on 6, something like that, which is absolutely bonkers. But Dave, like, your thoughts on those early starts? Like, at this rate, with how skewed it is against us, you'd think that maybe we might catch a break, but it just doesn't seem to be so.
I guess it's the curse of being Liverpool and one of the most popular teams on the globe. I think it's all about TV times and TV rights and TV slots, and Liverpool have to be televised every week, and that's it. There's such a big global fan base that they need to be on the box every week. So the schedule, Liverpool have to be in that schedule every single week. They can't obviously be on a Sunday every week. So Saturday, especially with the Europa League, when they're going to spend a lot of Sundays playing this year or this season, they have to play some Saturdays too. And for TV, there's only 2 real slots, and that's the early kickoff and the 6:30 or whatever it is. So 6:30 my time, 5:30 UK time. So yeah, it's a tough one. It's a no-win situation, but it is what it is, and it's always going to be that way. It's absolutely not perfect. I don't think I'll jump on the agenda or the, what's the word I'm looking for? They're out to get us. Yeah, they're out to get us bandwagon just yet. I would do that on the refereeing side, but not in terms of the TV schedule. But it is what it is. We're a global club. We have to be on the TV. We probably make one of the most amounts of money for global television distributors. So we've got to be in there. And if it has to be an early kickoff, so be it. But absolutely 100%, it goes against us. And not just against us. I think most teams suffer on the early kickoff.
Yeah, it just, to be honest, I think they should just sack it off completely, that early kickoff, or it should be used for teams that don't have massive contingents of international players that are going out, and give the smaller teams, the likes of a Luton, the likes of a Sheffield, the likes of the teams that are at the lower end of the table, give them the TV rights and the TV money. It could help them, and it's not to say, we'll be the charity case and hand it over to them teams. It'd be better for the game, in my own opinion. Anthony, are you of much of a similar mind as Dave? Do you think that there's any sort of a conspiracy here, considering how, I say conspiracy is a harsh word to use, but any sort of an agenda is probably the better word to use, considering how skewed it is against us for these 12:30 kickoffs following an international break?
It does seem like really odd how we've got 14 or 15 12:30 kickoffs since Klopp's joined, and the next one was like 7 or 8, like you've already said. So I don't think there's an agenda. Like Dave's already said, we're biggest club in England anyway, so we're going to be televised. And I could be wrong here, so don't quote me on this. I think it is because Arsenal's Champions League match got scheduled to the Wednesday, so they're not allowed to play 12:30. I don't know how it works, but something like that. But yeah, I don't really think there's an agenda against us now.
It's just, I guess it's just adds fuel to the fire of us assuming that it's us against the world for the rest of the season, like what happened in the Tottenham game. So I welcome it, to be perfectly honest with you. Throw us all the challenges, because if we go into that City game after an international break and start at 12:30 in the day and we beat them, which I think we do genuinely have a chance to do, I think that would really put a statement out to the league that try us. But it doesn't seem to be working for anybody else. But yeah, it is what it is. It's annoying, but unfortunately, I think you're right, Dave, in saying that it is TV rights. But I think they'd be better suited, given those TV rights, especially after those international breaks, to teams that wouldn't have massive contingents of international players, the likes of a Luton, the likes of a Sheffield, that could do with that TV revenue money. But obviously, people that are getting paid a lot more than I am make those decisions.
Are you sure?
Well, I never said it was right that they were getting paid more than I am. Never said it was deserved either, but people rob a living all over the place. Harry Maguire is still robbing a living at Man United, so that's there. But on to our next topic, and before we get on to it, I just want to ask everybody, please do like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. It really does help us. We're just under 250 people away from getting to our 10,000 subscriptions, and we really want to try and hit that before the next transfer window. It's all on you guys. Please do it. It's free. And look, if you don't like it, you can always change your mind afterwards. But if you have done so already, we very much do appreciate it. Make sure you have the bell notification on for all future live streams and everything like that as well, so you'll get notified about us going live. Next topic of discussion is Jörg on the way out? there has been talks lately of a new sporting director coming in, the man that is in charge of RB Leipzig at the moment, Eberl, I believe is how you pronounce his surname. But he's been sort of courted by other big clubs such as Bayern as well. Bayern Munich are looking at him. So in my own mind, I think it's a little bit harsh to sack off Jörg so quickly. I think we should at least give him the January window to see what he works there. And if he drops an egg on that one, goodbye, good luck. You're gone in the summer and we'll move on to somebody else. But I think he should be at least given January. Dave, a couple of your thoughts on Max Eberl as a sporting director. Do you think he should come in? Do you think he'd be having that RB Leipzig DNA ingrained into him, very much like Szobozslai and any other players that we've gotten from RB Leipzig, Naby Keita excluded, that have that would help us, because it has really established a better relationship with that club, and their scouting department is second to none, other than Brighton as well, obviously.
Yeah. Look, when I've been following Eberl for a couple of years now, especially during the time that we haven't really had a decent sporting director. I mean, you can say what you want about Julian Ward. I was like, this guy is okay, but he never really blew my mind, to be quite honest. Obviously, Michael Edwards, we know what a fantastic job he did. But this Eberl guy, he's really good. And this guy, as a sporting director, he is fantastic. And it is our biggest hole at the moment. It is our biggest hole. And it has a big effect on the whole club, not having a top-notch sporting director in play to support the ownership, to support the management, to get deals over the line. It is critically important. It's no coincidence that the best clubs in the world, i.e. Man City, their sporting directors are top notch. And this is, for me, Jörg, thank you for the short interval. Get the hell out the door. Let's get Eberl in. I wish you good luck in your retirement, Mr. Schmadtke. But we need someone at the very top of the game, and he's still very young as well. So he's got plenty of years ahead of him in the business. So I'm a big fan. I want him.
Yeah, I want him, but I also feel like Jörg may be hard done by. Anthony, how would you have rated his first summer with us? We know he's been joked about as release clause FC and everything, but realistically, he spent less than 150 million on 4 midfielders that all have the potential to be world class, outside of Endo, obviously, but 3 of the 4, 75% hit rate on players that you've brought in that could be world class isn't exactly something to be turning your nose up at either.
It's definitely not. But I know you said we joke about it, but there were release clauses at the end of the day with Szobozslai and MacAllister, because no way is MacAllister going for 35 in this market, but somehow we've managed to do that. The only thing I think you can question, you just got to have the best. Your Liverpool Football Club, I think you need the best. Like, I'll keep agreeing with Dave here, but like Dave pointed out, City's got the best ones. I was about to say United then, definitely not United. But like, the top teams always have the best ones, and that's what we need. We wasted, I'd say, was it about a month trying to find a defensive midfielder, and all due respect to Endo, hopefully it does come good, but we've signed a 31-year-old from a relegation battling side in the Bundesliga, when maybe if we negotiated with Caicedo earlier in the transfer window, he could have been ours now, and who knows what our midfield could have looked like. And I think he's made some good signings, don't get me wrong. Gravenberch, he looks really good. In fact, I was about to say he's better. He looks better than Szobozslai, he doesn't. But I'm excited about our midfield. But I think looking forward for the future, he just probably needs replacing. I think he had this summer to try and convince us, and he's made a couple of release clauses. Got Gravenberch, who we were already linked with before. He was a part of Liverpool, so best to move on from him, I think.
Yeah, I think he should be given January, because if he works, I'll pose the question to the two of you. If Jörg decides to work wonders in January and gets us a CDM and gets us a centre back, hypothetically, gets us a new CDM and gets us a new centre back, maybe even one of the guys we're going to discuss in a couple of minutes, would you be happy to keep him then and extend his contract, or still show him the door?
The only thing is, I feel like it's common sense. We need these players, so it depends which players he actually brings in, because he had a whole summer to bring in a defender, had a whole summer to bring in a CDM, so he's already had that chance. obviously we're not. I can't imagine we're going to get rid of him in January. So he's going to have the opportunity to do so. So we'll see which kind of names he brings in, and if he does a good job, then we'll wait and see. But I still think go for the Leipzig one.
Yeah, I reckon so as well. Dave, what do you think? Do you think if he does a good job in January, if he brings in some worldies, do you keep him or still show him the door?
I have massive question marks about how much he did this summer, if I'm honest with you, because I think players do not get scouted over 3 weeks or 6 weeks. They get scouted over 6 months or 9 months. So I think a lot of the groundwork on all of those players has probably already been done.
And he just kind of kicked it over the line.
He just kind of kicked it over the line, and the fact that he knew the German market extremely well, the language, dealing with the agents over there, I think that really played in our favor for this short-term situation. But again, we all know that the guy is not a world-class sporting director. I value our club at the very highest level. Not that I want to be a Man City or do I want to be a whatever, Real Madrid. However, I think we deserve to have someone very, very strong at the top in the sporting director role. And I think we've missed that since Michael Edwards. I mean, Michael Edwards obviously grew up through the Liverpool system and got his shot at the sporting director role and did amazing work. But you don't, you need someone who understands the business of football and how to deal in money and how to be strong in negotiations. And that's what Michael Edwards has. He was a master negotiator. He knew the fine line between being hard, yet still getting the deal over the line. So that is an important mix that you need to have in that particular type of role. And I just think that Jörg, if you look back at his history, doesn't really have much to back up him justifying being in this role. But you look at someone like Eberl, who has sort of, had 2 roles in Germany, including Leipzig, and we know how good they are as a run club. I just think he would be a good fit for us. And this is no bad vibes against Schmadtke. I thank him. I think he did us a massive favor because we were screwed at the time. Let's be honest, completely screwed. So I think he did us a massive favor, but we have to look to the future. And, success starts at the very top. And whatever your opinion is of the owners, they've been pretty, let's just say, stable over the past 10 years that they've been there. And the problem in the last couple of years for me has been the exodus and merry-go-round of sporting directors. And I think we need to solve that.
Yeah, getting somebody in that adds to the stability of the top of the pyramid will help massively, and it'll trickle down to everything below that. And I do think Eberl will be a good one to go for. I think we should go for him, and I think it'll actually help us an awful lot next summer. And especially considering we seem to like going for the German market. The German market seems to have done us very well recently, especially with the likes of Szobozslai and Gravenberch too. Before we move on to our next couple of topics, I want to thank Jen, as always, funding our January transfer window. Thank you so much, Jen, for your £1.99. Big up, guys. Great channel, but where is Big Kev? Kev is currently on holiday. He's done too much work, and he's nice and relaxed on a beach in Alicante at the moment, soaking up the sun, and he'll come back with a beautiful tan. Don't you worry about that, Jen.
What do I have to do to get a piece of Jen's heart? This is like Mission Impossible. There is only Kev. There's only Kev.
There's only Kev. There's only one Kev, and it's Kev TV. And there's only ever going to be one Kev with LFC Transfer Room. And we do appreciate all the love, Jen. Thank you so much for that. It's very much appreciated. Moving on to the next couple of topics, there's a couple of players that I've kind of looked at myself very quickly that we could start looking for in the January window and maybe even beyond that. These are guys to watch out for. I think these guys are going to be very, very big in the coming years. They're all under the age of 20, which is good for us because of the homegrown spots. But this kind of lines up with the news of Andy Robertson having left the Scotland game with his shoulder injury. Is now the time to start investing in everything? Well, you have your answer here, Dave.
Hallelujah.
That's beautiful. We do love loving this chat. It's great. So the first player that we're going to discuss is Patrick Dorgu. He is a 18-year-old Danish left back who plays for US Lecce in Serie A in Italy. He is kind of at the moment, kind of emerging onto the scene at the moment. He's a very, very good player. He's fantastic with his passing. He could very much be a person that we invest and develop in. And if you look at his statistics, he's very much in the 90th percentile for most of the statistic that we would want for our left back role. He could be a fantastic understudy to Robertson and Tsimikas. He's big, he's strong, he's quick. He's very much Andy Robertson in the Italian league, which is something I look forward to seeing. Just based off that quick and brief introduction, Dave, I know you mentioned that you haven't really had much time. You've only been kind of thrown onto him today. But at a brief introduction, he's a young Danish guy, big, strong, athletic. He can run, very much similar to an Andy Robertson body type. He's fantastic in his short and intermediate passing. Long passing leaves a little bit to be desired, however, which is something that we would worry about considering Andy Robertson's delivery from crosses. But 85% tackles won as well. He loves getting a foot in, loves disrupting the play of the game, and loves disrupting the flow of the game. He screams Andy Robertson to me. Is that the kind of player you'd like to see come in and maybe develop under Andy Robertson, similar to how Kwanzaa has come in and developed under the likes of Kanate and Virgil?
Yeah, I don't mind new blood. I don't mind looking to the future. I do get concerned when we have a player like Luke Chambers coming up through the system, and what does that mean for someone like him? Do we need to look outside? Because from all I've seen and all the reviews I've read on Chambers, there's a real lot of potential there, and he's getting ever closer to pushing through the barrier. So that concerns me a little bit. In terms of this particular player, I mean, he sounds good. He looks good on paper, but he came from the Norwegian league 4 months ago.
Yeah.
And he's playing in one of the smallest clubs in the Serie A, in a league that I don't really rate too highly. So, yeah, you can look for potential. That's great, but it's a huge risk. So
yeah, well, see, it seems to be something that an awful lot of the other teams are doing. The likes of, like, we've done it already with that young man from Leicester. I can't remember his name. His name escapes me at the moment. Yes, Trainioni, and he seems to be one for the future. And I've seen it a lot through the transfer window, and it's something that I've been questioning. Why aren't we doing more of this? Maybe that they think that there's players there that are already going to come through, but Anthony, we see the likes of Man City and Arsenal and Man United and Chelsea signing up all of these young 16 and 17-year-olds that it's almost like a farm system that you'd find in baseball in the US. But is this something that we need to start doing? Because I don't really see much news of us doing it. Like, City have signed 4 or 5 players of that category already.
You'd think so. For if we can get a sell-on value from, I think naturally when you join Liverpool, though, we'll be able to get that sell-on value, because how many did Chelsea sign? 30, 40 odd players in the past year, and half of them aren't going to make it at Chelsea. They're just going to sell them on for a higher fee. So maybe it's something we should look into. But in terms of out and out sort of improving the team, do we need a third left back option? You know, we can play Gomez there. We could play like Dave said, you could got Chambers there as well. So it would be a fourth backup option, and I don't think it's necessary moving forward in terms of helping the team. But
yeah,
we've I guess to get an increased transfer budget, if we want to sell these players on in the future, we can go ahead and do it. But I'm not too asked, to be honest. I'm not too asked about signing 18, 19-year-olds that aren't going to come in and improve us straight away.
Well, see, it's not so much the improving straight away. It's more like, as we said, with certain players that can come in and grow into the squad. Like, we found, like, Kwanzaa alone has saved us £50 million at minimum, just purely from his play and how he's progressed into the squad. And I think he's going to be a fantastic centre-back understudy for the likes of Kanate and the likes of Van Dijk, and he could be there for another 10 years minimum. I think we need to start doing that with more young players, and with the guys that are these young guys that are able to come in and play. I genuinely think, even if we loan them out, like loan them to a championship side and see if they have, for lack of a better term, the mustard to be able to do it. And if they don't, sell them on. like we need to start being a little bit more cutthroat with stuff like that, in my own opinion. And I think farming these younger talents from these European sides would genuinely do that for us, because eventually we're going to find a diamond in the rough. We're going to find a Szobozslai. We're going to find a Gravenberch. We're going to find a Nunes. Go ahead, Anthony. Sorry.
To be fair, I was just thinking about it. Yeah, we kind of have done it slightly, I guess you could say. Sepp van den Berg, he wasn't brought in to, improve the squad, whatever. We already had about 5 or 6 centre-backs at the time. And then you got Bajcetic recently we signed. I think Kwanzaa was kind of straight from the academy, wasn't he? Harvey Elliott, maybe you could argue, 16-year-old from Fulham. So whenever we do sign them, I think they tend to be decent. Sepp van den Berg, we're definitely going to make profit on him whenever we choose to sell him, or if Klopp wants to keep him on. I've not really seen too much from him recently. Kwanzaa as well, he looks really... like you said, he saved a 50 mil, man, because I was panicking a bit, Konate's injury prone, Gomez injury prone, Matip injury prone, and then who've you got left next to Van Dijk for the upcoming season? So he's done really well to fit in. Who was the other one? Oh, Harvey Elliott. Even him, he's been getting more involved with it, with the first team a lot lately, past couple of seasons. So, like, I just want to touch on my point before, basically. So, yeah, I don't think they needed to improve the squad at the moment, but it's not the end of the world if we don't sign them, really.
Yeah, it's more so just me spitballing. Go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't mind us doing it at a certain level. I don't want to do it like Chelsea do it, for sure.
No, not that at all.
I think we have done it. If you look at the 2 young goalkeepers we have, for example, who are, again, you can see them. I mean, especially if Kwame Kelleher goes off to brighter pastures in the near future, which could happen, because Ali's going to be around for a while, no doubt. And he's, for me, is the best keeper in the world. Bajcetic is another one. So we have a lot of talent that we do pick up at the age of 15, 16. Maybe it's not as publicized as someone like Chelsea, who like to make big headlines and show signings left, right, and center in the newspapers and leak this and leak that. That's just the way they've done business since Abramovich came in, to be quite honest. And I can't stand it. I think it's disgusting. But I like the way we do things. I think we've done it. I think we could up our game slightly. I agree with you there, Stephen. I think we could perhaps, up it by 10, 15%, maybe get, 3 or 4 a season on the down low, breed them in, get them through the system. I agree with that. But again, I think we should be careful which players we get in as well. I think it has to be a real plan put together for it.
That kind of feeds into the new sporting director as well. If we do end up getting a new sporting director, it could be a plan that he implements. If it is Eberl that comes in, it'll be very interesting to see what his plan is going forward, especially with his connection to the likes of the German leagues and the youth players that are there. And I think somebody mentioned up here further, I want to see if I can get it. Bear with me 1 second. Where is it? I believe it was Jamie Hughes that mentioned it. The amount of people that he ended up actually getting. Here it is. Helio, apologies. Marcus Reyes, Granit Xhaka, Dennis Zakaria, Marcus Thuram, and Manu Kone to Mönchengladbach when he was there. I mean, that's a fairly strong resume if you were to. So he clearly does kind of know his trade. So it wouldn't shock me if he came in and started getting those players and scouting those players in. Those kind of players, those profiles, should I say? It'd probably be the better word. But moving on from Patrick Dorgu, we have Antonio Silva as well, who, despite interest from the likes of Liverpool and Man United, isn't exactly enamored by a move to the Premier League. He's quite happy with Benfica at the moment. He's a 19-year-old right-footed centre-back. He'd be playing in under the Van Dijk role at the moment. Given Van Dijk's advanced age, to put it lightly, and the fact that he seems to have maybe lost a little bit of a step since the knee injury, and that's not even knocking him, considering he was untouchable prior to the knee injury. He's now human, if you want to put that word onto it. Is it about time that we kind of started looking at somebody like Antonio Silva or somebody along those lines? Maybe even the next guy we're going to talk about, Leny Yoro, who plays for Lille at the moment. Somebody like that to just come in and be an understudy, because we have Kwanzaa and that's all well and good, but with Konate and his injury issues, Kwanzaa's probably going to be playing there more than he would with Van Dijk on his right. Anthony, do you think it's something that we need to start looking into, as getting like a young centre-back to develop behind Van Dijk, or do we need to get somebody that's much, much more established, or even both?
Absolutely not. I think we need just someone who's already well established. It's like if we were to just replace Salah with Dorgu right now, not offense to Dorgu, I'm sure he'll become a good player, but it's just complete levels at the moment. Van Dijk, talking about one of the best sort of defenders in the world, and he's definitely found his form lately. I think this season you can argue he's been one of the better centre backs in the league. So absolutely not. I think replacing with someone who's already well established. Picking out that specific player is obviously going to be a tough one, though. I'm not sure if you guys have any names you want to pick out to replace Van Dijk with in the future. At the moment, I think Nkapie was mentioned for Leverkusen. Maybe if Xabi Alonso comes manager, he'll bring him along. But yeah, I'm not too sure. I'm not too fussed about replacing Van Dijk at the moment. He's one of them sort of, dare I say, one of them freak players who can go on for another 3 or 4 years, hopefully.
Yeah, I agree as well. I hope he can, and he seems to have that play style that he can kind of sit and be a holding centre half, for lack of a better term, where he can just sit there and not necessarily have to use much of his pace, and that wouldn't necessarily need to be a strong suit. Thankfully, when the only thing he'd really need to worry about is body and Haaland, and he seems to put him in his pocket every time he plays him. Dave, much the same question to yourself. Is it about time that we try and avoid a similar situation to the midfield where we have old age pensioners surrounding our younger talent, and it doesn't necessarily help them develop when we need to get guys with legs in there? Not to say Van Dijk doesn't have legs, but you can't really ignore the age issue either.
Yes, you're right. Absolutely. We need reinforcements, no doubt. I'm a bit mesmerized by Konate. For me, he's one of the brightest talents in the world. When he's on it, he is, for me, one of the best that there is out there. He's quick, he's strong, he's great in the air. His awareness is unbelievable. His ability to slide into tackles at the exact right moment is, bar none, up there with the best. So he's still young. These young players, they tend to get these injuries and have little spells out here and there. He's not really out for great long periods, is he? But it's a bit concerning that even this season so far, doesn't seem to be injured all that much, but he's not playing as much as I would have expected. So that's strange and one to watch. But yeah, we need some young blood for sure. I agree with Anthony and yourself. Let's not write Van Dijk off yet. When his legs do start to go, which is not yet, I think that he's got game intelligence, and that can make up for a lot.
The anticipation.
Anticipation, and also delegating around you, to have the younger, brighter sparks doing the hard lifting, and you are the linchpin that keeps it all together. So we've seen it in a number of players before. I mean, Thiago Silva isn't exactly Darwin Núñez when it comes to speed, but he's got game intelligence and bags of it. So, I think Van Dijk will be with us for a while. He's not the same Van Dijk. We know that. He was clearly by a country mile the best centre-back in the world for 3 or 4 seasons. But he's not that guy anymore, and that's okay. You know what I mean? It's fine. Nobody usually stays at that top of their game for much longer. That it's usually that sort of area, unless you're one of the massive superstars like Salah or Messi or Ronaldo, or you could pick a handful of other players. But I think we do need young blood, absolutely. And there are a lot of names being thrown out there, and I like Antonio Silva. And whilst we are being linked with him, I think it's a bit of agent talk. It's a bit of all this sort of stuff, trying to build up the profile of the player for the future. I don't think there's anything real to it at this moment in time. So I don't believe that's the case. Nkapie would have been, I like that guy. I'm a little bit worried about him because he's got a bit of the bear in him. He's got a temper on him, and he's hardcore. He flies into tackles. He's a bit madness. But he's a very, very good central defender. So if there's a chance to get him in future, I'd really like to see him, because he's but of course he's tied in with Xabi Alonso, isn't he, at the moment?
Yeah.
So they're not going to let go of him anytime soon, especially when they're on a title run. So I don't think it'll happen before the summer at the earliest. And if Xabi's going to Real Madrid, if you believe the rumors, then I think the market will open up at Leverkusen. But we definitely do need some young blood, and I think we have a bit of time on our hands, but Matip's going. Joe Gomez is still a 50-50, so we definitely need some blood in.
Yeah, it's something that we do definitely need to get in. It's just some young talent that can sit there and develop, because it's all well and good having Kwanzaa there and enjoying having Kwanzaa there, but realistically, reinforcements are badly needed. Before we move on to probably one of the last topics of the day, if you have any questions, guys, fire them into the chat. We'll get to them. I'll save them all and we'll get to them. But before we get to that, I just want to say thank you everybody so much for joining us. Please do like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. If you have done so, thank you so much. Make sure you have the bell notification on for any of our future streams and videos. We're always live from 7:30 UK time, so please do make sure to join us for that. We always do appreciate the help, and also just a big thank you to Jen as well for the £1.99. Always showing the love, and showing the love more specifically to Kev, and we've gotten some love for Dave as well on this stream as well, so we're happy with that. A couple of questions that I want to get with, kind of just to fill up the next couple of minutes and maybe next 15-20 minutes, and if you guys do have any questions, fire them in. We'll get to them and we'll try and answer them, and I'll ping them around the place. Helier mentions here with the new sporting director in Eberl, if we do end up getting him, that I'm assuming that this is what it was for, that we could challenge the Red Bull organization or Ajax in their talent developments, and that would be something to behold if that did happen, considering a club the size of Liverpool getting the same kinds of talent that would come through that those clubs get. And the only reason that those clubs kind of stay alive is purely because of the rotating transfers that they get in and their resurgence of talent every time they get it, and that they find 80 million players out of nothing. And I think it's something that we do relatively need to get in on, and it's something, and with this South American deal with Andre, it is something that we could start developing further into South America. Dave, a couple of your thoughts on that sort of a question. Like, do you think we could end up rivaling the recruitment agencies of the Red Bull organization or Ajax, or even the likes of a Brighton as well?
No. Simple answer.
Okay.
We're a different club. These guys need it to generate money. That's their business model.
Yeah.
And they don't have the pressure of competing at the very, very top of each league and each competition every single year. So they have the opportunity to allow these bright sparks to flourish, get game time without too many repercussions, if you get my drift. So I don't think it'll ever be the case for Liverpool to be one of these clubs. And if they do have these players coming through, they're not going to sell them on for sure anyway. So no, I don't see it happening. It's too much of a big risk for a club who is competing at the highest level. You can get in young blood, get them through your system, give them a couple of years, get them some time in the cups, see how they get on, and then perhaps bring them through that way. But to become that sort of club that is constantly identifying youth and giving them their chance, that's a huge risk to take when you're trying to win the Premier League, you're trying to win European competitions and English cups, which are the hardest in the world, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't see it being anything of interest to us. I don't see it ever happening as well.
Fair enough. I think it'd actually be beneficial for us, because just purely, like as Helier mentions here as well, Anthony, and I throw this over to you too to see if your opinion on it. They have a team in Austria, Germany, USA, and Brazil. Like, their network is just ridiculous. It's not so much their talent farming system, I think, Anthony, is what we need to sort of look into, but more their network. And I get your point, Dave, of what you're mentioning. And Ferguson, Evan Ferguson, my fellow national compatriot, I know exactly what he means when he says that he chose Brighton over Liverpool, because Liverpool can't afford to give the opportunity to a 17-year-old coming through, whereas Brighton can. I completely get that. And you're 100% correct, because Ajax walk the league every year outside of PSV. RB Leipzig are usually up there and usually get into either the Europa or Champions League every year, and they just refund their money that way. Same with any of the other RB teams as well. So it is something that needs to be looked at, but more so their networking. Anthony, do you think a network of that gravitas, like especially with this Andre deal that should be coming through, hopefully, we say hopefully, in January, we should start establishing or even maybe purchasing other clubs elsewhere? I know it's wishful thinking to say with FSG as owners, but the networking side of it, of getting established in academies in these far off places that is just oozing with talent, Like Brighton just went and replaced Caicedo for 20 million with Baleba, and he looks to be the real deal immediately.
I know Vicky's saying these are sort of dream scenarios, but it's just not realistic, I think, because like you kind of pointed out as well, Brighton can replace these players because there's not as much pressure, there's not as many eyes on them. If you have one bad game for Liverpool, you drop for the next week. It's just how it is. And you're going to get constant criticism, abuse. And like James has pointed out as well, Ferguson could have gone... So I read that wrong anyway. But Ferguson could have chose to go to Liverpool, but he's opted for Brighton instead because he knows he's not going to get as many chances at Liverpool as he would at Brighton. So he's got less of a chance of developing his career and his overall game, I guess. So realistically, I think those sort of top clubs are never going to have that many players coming from the academy because they'll either go out on loan. And the ones that will come through the academy will most likely, I'd say, have gone out on loan or they've made a real impact, like an Alexander-Arnold, I guess. So, and you look in the past sort of decade, I'd say Alexander-Arnold aside, you've got Curtis Jones, and if you look in our 11, I think he's arguably the most replaceable, I want to say. So even for someone who's of that quality, they won't have a long-term future at a top club, I guess. I think I've probably gone off topic, but I think the point before anyway, they're not really going to get as many chances at Liverpool. We need a defensive midfielder. Are we going to bring a random 18-year-old who's just completely unknown from a random country to fill in for Fabinho, who's been world class for God knows what, 5 or 6 years? Absolutely. Yeah. So just not realistic.
I completely get what you're saying as well with Ferguson. As selfish as it is, I wish he stayed at Liverpool because I would have loved to have seen him been given a chance. But realistically, he was never going to get one, especially in the years that he would have come in, considering we were challenging for titles, Champions Leagues, the quadruple, trebles, the whole lot. Like, maybe now he would have been given an opportunity prior to Darwin Núñez being purchased. He might have with Firmino on the way out, but Firmino was at the height of his powers when Ferguson was trying to come through and break through. So I get that. I do. It's maybe just being selfish of me. I like seeing Irish players in the team. That's why I kind of like Queevy and Callagher in the team, and seeing the captain's armband on him a couple of weeks ago was a special moment for most Irish people, I think. Something that Jamie Hughes mentions here, and I'm going to ask him about it. It'll come out soon that Fluminense own 80% of Andre. This will present complications in signing the player that need to be worked out, a reliable source of mine. How do you mean, Jamie, is that they own 80% of him? Maybe I'm just stupid and not reading it right. Lads, do you know what's meant there, or is it just me being a bit of a tit at the moment?
I think it is about because agents own players in South America, right? So clubs don't own the full package. So I think that's what James Hughes is referring to. But listen, it's all about money. So as long as the agent gets his piece, his nice piece, usually you can get a deal over the line. Because with these South American players, you're not talking about astronomical figures. So I think that's what James Hughes is referring to.
Yeah, he's confirmed it there.
Andre is an absolute must for me, an absolute must. I mean, he's taken Fluminense to another level, this guy. I mean, really, he's an outstanding player. And he's got an attitude on him as well, which I like, a very cheeky attitude. And I like players like that because they're fiery and they give everything they've got. So I think he's a must. And I think if a deal wants to get over the line, if the player wants to make it happen, they should make it happen. But of course, Liverpool have to make sure they buy him 100% outright.
Yeah, that is it as well. His attitude, I don't know, Anthony, if you've watched him yourself, but he reminds me very much of a Darwin Núñez. He will just heart in the sleeve, will go, and will have to be dragged off the pitch, kicking and screaming before he quits, which is essentially what you really want for a CDM when you think about it. So if this whole Andre deal comes through and everything that we read from all reliable sources seems to indicate that it's practically all but done in name, he's a guy that could really come in and be an engine in that CDM role, or even in a flat midfield role in the center to kind of control things. And that's an amazing thing to say for a 22-year-old.
Definitely. I've only watched highlights of him. I'm not going to pretend I've been watching the Brazilian league often, but I've seen the comments on the YouTube channel as well from like lots of Brazilians. Oh, we're going to miss Andre when he goes in January and stuff like that. Oh, he's so good. Oh, I wonder where he's going to go to and stuff. But I mean, if everyone else is on board, then hopefully he's a good addition if we do manage to bring him in. Ideally, like we've already brought up, man, we want to be spending a lot less on these sort of players. We don't want to be spending 100+ million on players we could get for a similar quality for a lot less value. So better to find them cheap and young than spend silly amounts. And like you've already said, he's got the passion. Yeah, I was watching Suarez's match against, was it Chelsea, when we drew 2-2 to him, and he's just everywhere. You need those players, man, that just play for the badge, because you know they're going to be there for ages. They're not. When I say age, I mean like part of Liverpool for years. They're not even going to be thinking about leaving. So, and like you said, man, they're going to give it their all. So, if he's one of them players, then bring him in.
Yeah, and as Jamie has mentioned here, he came on for Brazil the other night, very recently, for Casemiro. I wouldn't necessarily call that the greatest of subs, considering the talent that Casemiro used to have and no longer has. He got dribbled past twice in the space of 20 minutes in that game, and he lost possession multiple times as well. Like his legs are gone, and to be honest, if Andre is coming on at the age of 22 for Brazil and replacing Casemiro, who is and was a staple in that Brazilian side for many years, it says a lot about him and a lot of what his Brazilian compatriots and coaches think of him. So I think it's a very exciting prospect to think of him coming to Liverpool and sitting in that 6th role. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. Guys, I think that is essentially going to be it for us for this evening. We're nearly at the hour mark as it is at the moment, but to be honest, dragging anything more out of this and any more news out of this would essentially be repeating ourselves, I'm afraid. But thank everybody so much for joining us. Please make sure to like and subscribe. It is always appreciated. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers, hopefully by the next transfer window. We're only 250 off that at the moment, give or take a couple of people. So please do like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have, we very much appreciate it. Make sure you have your bell notification on for all of our future streams and videos. And to the ever-present Jen, thank you so much for your £1.99 as well. It's very much appreciated. It all goes back into the channel to make content for you guys, which is what we want to do. But from myself, from Dave, from Anthony, thank you guys so much for joining us for this stream today, and we'll see you again tomorrow.